Hello and welcome back. In the previous video, we talked about the MiLEE and APA citation styles, and in this video, we're going to talk about Chicago style. Chicago is the main alternative to in-text citation styles and uses footnotes and endnotes instead. Footnotes provide details about publication without distracting the reader from analyzing the evidence in the text, which is especially useful in historical or legal works that will be very dense with references. Endnotes are the same thing, but are placed at the end of the document itself, not at the end of the page, as with footnotes. You can also provide additional information about the source beyond publication details that might be of interest, but not critical to understanding. These are known as discursive footnotes, but we won't go into these here. We're just going to focus on how to format actual footnotes. So if you find yourself needing to use footnotes, there are two ways to do it. Either have the footnote at the bottom of the page in which the content appears, or have all of the footnotes appear at the very end after the reference page. The first method is more commonly used, and that's what we're going to cover here. So, when making footnotes, make sure to introduce it with superscript numbers appearing above the end of the text. So you can see here, I have little 1, that's a superscript number, and I've put that after the end of the text that I am citing. Now, you also want to make sure that these numbers are sequential. So it goes in order 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like that. Make sure not to put these numbers after any dashes in your text, if you have any. And if you have parentheses, make sure the number goes on the inside of the parentheses like this. Okay, so Chicago can be pretty different from MiLEE or APA, and it's also a more flexible citation style that can include elements of both APA and MiLEE, depending on which departments you're in. If you're not sure how your specific university or department handles Chicago style citation, you should ask your professor. But for the time being, let's go through some example citations, this time emphasizing the difference between APA style and Chicago style, because those are the two primary styles that you will have to deal with at your time at Lingnan University. So I have two documents that I've set up side by side. This document is cited using Chicago style, and I have another document that's cited using APA, so you can see that here. Let's start off with something easy. So we're just going to have a simple source. Here we go. We've got one book with one author. So we've got the footnote here, and let's go to APA to see how it's cited. Here we go. So we have Gordon, 2003, page 183. It's pretty standard APA format. Now let's look at Chicago. Pretty different, right? So you need the full name first off. The full name is spelled out. I only have the initials, so I included that. But you also have the full title, the journal that the article came from, the volume, the 14, the number of the periodical within that volume, the year of publication, and the page number. So you have a lot more details. So Chicago uses footnotes to cite and takes advantage of being out of the way of the reader to include additional information that would be especially useful for students of history or similar disciplines. And they also include a lot of detail because sometimes they will be used, footnotes will be used instead of having a reference page or bibliography. So you need to include all of these publication details. So if you end up using footnotes at Lingnan University, make sure to include the full amount of publication details and number them correctly. So multiple authors will also look a little different when comparing APA and Chicago style. For two authors in APA, we're going to have what's called an ampersand, which is this symbol right here, linking the last names of the two authors. You can also replace this with a simple and, like this. In Chicago, however, you're going to write both names out. See here, we've got the full author names for both authors and connected with and. You can also use an ampersand here as well. And for three authors in APA, you see you have just the last names for each of them for the first time. And if you were going to cite these same authors again, you would do the first author's last name followed by et al., so Liu et al. In Chicago, similar story. We write out the names, the full names of all three authors here. And we would do that each time. However, in the case of 4 or more authors, if we go to one of our other sources here, we can see that instead of spelling out the names of all the authors, we just spell out the name of the first author followed by et al. So this is for 4 or more authors. And if we go over to the APA version, we can see that it's the same here. We just have the last name of the first author rather than the full name, also followed by et al. All right, that's it for Chicago style. If you have more questions on how to cite some particular work when you don't know the author, the page number, or something else, you can check out the resources linked below in the description. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.